My name is Cheryl, and I am 65 years old. For the past 2 years, Thursdays have been the loneliest day of my week. It is the day I call my son Ben. I am always the one who calls. And the conversations they have gotten shorter and shorter, just polite little sound bites from his end of the line. I miss the noise of family, the warmth that seemed to vanish into thin air 7 years ago when my Henry passed. I feel myself becoming a ghost in my own son's life. Before I share how a quiet Thursday call led me to the most defining moment of my later years, I am curious about you. Where are you listening from right now? Is it a cozy kitchen, a long commute, or perhaps your own quiet living room? If stories about finding unexpected strength resonate with you, I would be so grateful if you would tap that like button and consider subscribing to join our little community here. Your company on this journey means the world. The silence after hanging up that Thursday felt heavier than usual. Ben had been hurried, distracted. Just a big family trip, Mom, end of the month. Very important for the kids. No invitation, no wish you could come, just a vague announcement and a click. A cold dread pooled in my stomach. This was different. I needed to understand. My friend Eleanor. God bless her, still had access to my daughter-in-law Jessica's social media. Jessica had blocked me years ago, calling my occasional comments embarrassing. When Eleanor showed me the screen, my heart stopped. There it was. Jessica's post, counting down to the ultimate family reunion, had blessed oceanfront dream. And the photo, blurry but unmistakable, was of Sea Glass Cottage in Shelley Cove. The air left my lungs, of all places. Henry and I discovered Shelley Cove on a road trip decades ago. We fell in love with that particular house, a charming, weathered cedar shingle place with a wraparound porch facing the endless blue. We would park across the street, share a thermos of coffee, and dream out loud. "When we retire, Cheryl," he'd say, squeezing my hand, "that will be our porch, our view." It was our someday dream. After he died, the thought of that house, of that shattered dream, was too painful to bear. I packed the memory away in a locked corner of my heart. And now my son, my own flesh and blood, was planning his perfect family reunion there, deliberately leaving me out of the picture. The betrayal was a physical ache. It wasn't just an omission. It felt like they were erasing me, and in choosing that specific spot, they were trampling over the sacred ground of my most cherished memory with Henry. I sat in my darkening living room for a long time, holding a faded photograph of the cottage, feeling more invisible and alone than I ever had. The pain was a catalyst. It pushed me past my lonely sadness into a strange, focused determination. I had to know more. I called Nancy, my oldest friend, and the real estate agent who had handled everything for Henry and me for 30 years. "Nancy, it's Cheryl. Do you remember Sea Glass Cottage in Shelley Cove?" A pause on the line. "Cheryl, honey, of course I do. You and Henry loved that place." Her voice softened. "You don't know." "Know what?" "Cheryl, that house sold 6 years ago, right after Henry passed." She took a careful breath. "You came to me, remember? You were in a fog, but you were very clear. You had Henry's life insurance and your savings. You said, 'Nancy, buy it. Do it quietly. Keep the dream for me.' So I did. It was all handled through a trust. You own it, sweetie. You have for years." The world tilted. Fragments of memory surfaced through the grief haze of that time, signing papers without really reading them, wanting to secure one tangible piece of our future, wanting something of Henry's to endure. I had completely buried the act, along with the grief. I own it." The words felt foreign. "Lock, stock, and barrel. You've had a property management company renting it out seasonally. The income goes into that separate account we set up. You never asked about it, so I never brought it up. I thought it was too painful for you." A powerful, unfamiliar sensation began to push aside the hurt. It was a spark of agency, a secret. Cheryl, the overlooked mother, held a card nobody knew was in the deck. "Nancy," I said, my voice steadier than it had been in months, "I need everything. The deed, the trust papers, the management contract, and especially the current rental schedule." When the documents arrived, the final piece of the cruel irony snapped into place. The renters for the upcoming week, listed as the B. Miller family, were my son Benjamin Miller, his wife Jessica, and my 2 grandchildren. They were paying rent through an intermediary to me. A plan calm and clear formed in my mind. I would not make a scene. I would not call and scream. They wanted their perfect Cheryl-free reunion at the house of my dreams, so be it. But they would have an unexpected host. I would go to Shelley Cove. I would arrive at my house during their reunion, and I would let the truth reveal itself. The following week was a quiet whirlwind. I moved with a purpose I hadn't felt in years. I cleared out my closet, donating the faded, shapeless clothes I'd hidden in. I found a simple, elegant linen pantsuit I hadn't worn since a dinner with Henry. I got my hair styled a soft silver bob that framed my face instead of hiding it. This wasn't about vanity. It was about armor. It was about meeting the ghost of the woman I used to be and inviting her back. I called Ben one more time. My voice was calm, a flat lake. Ben, I saw Jessica's posts. Shelley Cove looks beautiful. I hope you all have a wonderful reunion. He stammered, caught off guard by my knowledge and my tone. Oh, thanks, Mom. Yeah, it's a trip for the, immediate family unit, for the kids' bonding. I understand. I said the words smooth and cool. Maybe I'll take a little trip to the coast myself soon. Enjoy your time. I hung up before he could respond, picturing the confusion on his face. The passive mother was no longer playing her part. The drive to Shelley Cove was a pilgrimage through my own history. I passed the roadside diner where Henry and I always had pie. I saw the turnoff for the lighthouse where we'd watched a storm roll in. The landscape pulled memories from me like treasures from a deep sea. I felt Henry's presence in the passenger seat not as a crushing grief, but as a quiet companion. I checked into a small, cheerful bed and breakfast called the Mariner's Rest, 2 streets over from the beachfront. My room had a small balcony, and from that balcony, I had a perfect, heartbreaking view of Seaglass Cottage. The next afternoon, I watched them arrive. Ben's sleek SUV pulled into the driveway. My grandchildren, Chloe and Sam, so much taller now, tumbled out. My heart lurched with a fierce, aching love. Then, Jessica emerged, pointing with authority as they unloaded luggage. She looked every bit the affluent matriarch. And then Ben, my son, looking relaxed, smiling that easy smile that used to be reserved for me. They carried their life into the house, a life that had no room for me. I watched until the last bag was inside and the door closed. I sat on the balcony until the sun dipped low, holding the heavy brass key to my own front door. Tomorrow was the day of their big reunion dinner. I knew exactly what I had to do. The morning of the reunion dawned clear and bright. I dressed carefully in the linen pantsuit, slipped on the simple pearl necklace Henry gave me for our 30th anniversary, and fastened his old watch around my wrist. I felt a surreal calm. I didn't take the street. I walked down to the public beach access, then followed the shoreline until I reached the familiar, privately marked path that wound through the dune grasses behind the properties. Henry and I had snooped down this very path all those years ago, giggling like teenagers. It led directly to the gate of the back garden of Seaglass Cottage. I could hear them before I saw them. The clink of glasses, the rise and fall of animated conversation, Jessica's distinctive laugh. I unlatched the gate and stepped into the lush, landscaped yard. They were all on the large stone patio, seated around a table laden with a lavish brunch. Jessica was holding court. And it was so exclusive the listing wasn't even public. I had to call in a major favor from a contact at the agency. Securing this place was a coup. I took a few steps forward, the soft crunch of pea gravel under my shoes the only sound I made. "Good morning, everyone," I said, my voice carrying clearly over the chatter. "The food looks wonderful." The scene froze. Jessica's smile vanished, her mouth forming a perfect O. A glass slipped from her hand, shattering on the stone with a sharp, shocking crack. Ben shot up from his chair, his face draining of all color. "Mom, what are you doing here? How did you get in?" I offered a small, composed smile. "Through the garden gate. It's more direct from the beach path." I let my gaze travel over the spread, the bouquets of flowers, the expensive champagne in a cooler. "You've set up beautifully." Jessica found her voice steeped in indignation. "We rented this house privately for the week. You can't just barge in. I'm calling the property manager right now." She fumbled for her phone, her fingers shaking. "That won't be necessary, Jessica," I said, my tone even. I reached into my pocket and drew out the key ring. Among the mundane keys was a single distinctive silver one engraved with the property management logo. I placed it on the table with a soft, definitive clink. "They'll just forward the call to me. I signed their checks." I turned my eyes to my son, who looked like he was seeing a ghost. "You're staying in my house, Ben. Seaglass Cottage. Your father and I bought it 6 years ago." The silence that followed was absolute, heavier than the ocean air. Ben's face cycled through shocked confusion and a dawning, horrified comprehension. His smug host of the manor smile was gone, replaced by a slack-jawed stare. Jessica looked from the key to my face and back again, her earlier arrogance collapsing into stunned, frantic calculation. Chloe and Sam watched wide-eyed, sensing the seismic shift in the adults. The only movement was the gentle flutter of the tablecloth in the sea breeze. I had walked into their perfect tableau and quietly, irrevocably shattered it. After a long moment, I gestured toward the sliding glass doors leading into the living room. Why don't we continue this conversation inside? They followed me, Ben and Jessica, moving like automatons. The children stayed on the patio, whispering. I led them, not as a guest, but as someone who knew the space. I chose the large armchair by the fireplace, the one with the best view of the room. They sat together on the sofa, a united front that now seemed fragile. Would someone like to explain? I asked, folding my hands in my lap. Why was I deliberately excluded from a family reunion at the one place on earth that means the most to me? Ben ran a hand through his hair. Mom, it wasn't like that. We just wanted a trip for the nuclear family. The kids are so busy, we needed core bonding time. Core bonding, I repeated softly. And where does that leave me? Ben on the periphery, an optional extra. I looked at Jessica. You posted about it publicly. You knew I would see it or that someone would tell me. That wasn't an oversight. That was a message. Jessica stiffened. Cheryl, we assumed you wouldn't enjoy it. The noise, the chaos, you're always talking about the past, about Henry. We wanted a fresh, happy vibe for the kids. There it was, the quiet truth laid bare. I wasn't just inconvenient, I was a downer. A relic of a past they wanted to sanitize. My memories of their father were bringing down the vibe. I looked at my son. Is that what you think too? That my love for your father, my memories of our family are just baggage that ruins your fresh, happy vibe? He couldn't meet my eyes. It's not that simple, Mom. It feels very simple from where I'm sitting, I said. For years, I've made every effort. I've swallowed every slight, accepted every last-minute cancellation, laughed off every forgotten birthday call from my own grandchildren because I didn't want to be the difficult mother. I thought my patience was love. But it wasn't. It was permission. Permission to treat me as an afterthought. I stood up and walked to the mantel where a generic landscape print hung. This was supposed to be a painting of the sea, I said absently. Henry and I picked out the spot for it. I turned back to them. Legally, I could ask you to leave right now. You are tenants in breach of goodwill at best, but I won't. The relief on their faces was brief. You can stay the week you paid for, I continued. Consider it a gift, but understand this. You are guests here, in my home, in the house where your father's dream lives on. I picked up my key from the coffee table. I'll be in town. I have my own exploring to do here. This house has many rooms I've never even seen as the owner. Make yourselves at home. I walked out the front door, leaving them in the quiet, sun-drenched living room. The weight of their shame and my own painful liberation hung in the air behind me. I didn't feel victorious. I felt weary and scoured clean and profoundly, unmistakably in charge. I spent the rest of the day walking the beach, the salt air cleansing my lungs and my spirit. The confrontation had left me drained, but not defeated. That evening, as I sat on my bed and breakfast balcony, my phone rang. It was Ben. Mom, his voice was thick. I don't know what to say. I am so sorry. So deeply sorry. I listened, silent. It was wrong. All of it. Jessica. She has these ideas about how things should look, the perfect picture, and I went along with it. I told myself it was easier. I told myself you were tough, you'd understand. But I knew. I knew it was cruel, especially choosing that house. I remembered you and Dad talking about it. I think a part of me chose it because it felt successful, to have the thing my parents only dreamed of, and I didn't want to share that feeling. I'm so ashamed. The raw honesty in his voice was new. It was the crack in the wall. Thank you for telling me that, Ben, I said, my own voice gentle but firm. An apology is a start, but trust isn't mended with words alone. I need to see a change. I will not be the one always reaching across the void anymore. The phone works both ways. Plans need to include me from the beginning, not as a pity add-on. I know, he whispered. I know. In the weeks that followed, I took concrete steps. I contacted the property management company and terminated our agreement. Seaglass Cottage was coming home to me in more than name. I decided I would spend parts of each season there. I invited Nancy for a girls' weekend. I began the slow, satisfying work of making the house my own, blending my present with Henry's memory on my terms. I sent a brief, kind text to Ben and Jessica. I am open to rebuilding our relationship, but it will look different. I am here, but I will no longer chase you. When you would like to plan a visit, please let me know. I set the boundary not with anger, but with a peaceful finality. Months have passed now. The sharp edges of that day on the patio have softened, but the lesson remains carved into my soul. I am sitting on the porch of Seaglass Cottage, the realtor's sign finally gone from the yard. My porch, my view. A book lies open in my lap, but I am watching the waves, the same waves Henry and I dreamed beside. Ben calls me now, not just on Thursdays. The conversations are sometimes awkward, but they are real. He brought the children for a weekend last month. We built sandcastles on the beach that was once just a postcard dream. Jessica was polite, distant, but respectful. The power dynamic had forever shifted, not because I wielded ownership like a weapon, but because I finally remembered my own worth. The deepest healing came from understanding that my love for my son did not have to mean the erasure of myself. True strength, I learned, isn't about grand gestures or loud confrontations. It is in the quiet act of walking through your own garden gate. It is in speaking your truth without raising your voice. It is in realizing that sometimes the most powerful room in the house is the one you build for yourself inside your own heart. This house is no longer just a symbol of a lost dream. It is the foundation for my new beginning. And the view from here of the vast forgiving ocean and my own hard-won peace is more beautiful than I ever imagined. If my story found you in your own season of quiet fading, I would love to hear from you. Have you ever had to rebuild a relationship from a place of newfound strength? What does home mean to you? Please, share your thoughts in the comments below your stories. Inspire me. If this journey resonated with you, please give this video a like to help others find it. Subscribe for more stories of finding your way back to yourself and share it with someone who might need a gentle reminder of their own strength. Thank you for spending this time with me. Wherever you are, I wish you peace and the courage to walk through your own garden gate.